Hello friends. Imagine a world where the Middle East's most volatile border vanishes. Imagine a scenario where the biggest threat to Israel suddenly becomes its strongest ally. For 47 years, the geopolitical chessboard of West Asia has been defined by one singular hostility, the Islamic Republic of Iran versus the State of Israel. It is the conflict that fuels militias, disrupts shipping lanes, and keeps global oil prices on edge. But today, on January 15, 2026, a document has been released that threatens to flip the entire board. A promise has been made that sounds impossible: a nuclear-free Iran, a recognized Israel, and a new alliance structure called the Cyrus Accords. Is this the beginning of a new golden age for the Middle East, or is it the precursor to a bloody civil war? And most importantly, what does this massive shift mean for India, a country that has heavily invested in Iranian ports while maintaining a strategic embrace with Israel? I will tell you exactly how this impacts New Delhi's strategy later in this video, and trust me, the implications for the Chabahar Port are massive. So stick around because we are diving deep. Let us start with the breaking news that has shaken diplomatic corridors from Washington to Jerusalem to New Delhi. Today, Reza Pahlavi, the exiled crown prince of Iran and the son of the last Shah, has released a definitive roadmap for a post-Islamic Republic Iran. This is not just a vague political speech, this is a policy doctrine. Pahlavi has explicitly stated that if the current regime in Tehran falls and a secular democracy is established under his transition plan, the new Iranian government will immediately cease all military nuclear activities. But he did not stop there. In a move that directly challenges the core ideology of the current supreme leader, Pahlavi has vowed to fully normalize relations with Israel. He is calling this future framework the Cyrus Accords. Now you might be wondering, why Cyrus? This is a brilliant historical play. Cyrus the Great was the ancient Persian king who famously liberated the Jewish people from Babylonian captivity and helped them rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. By using this name, Pahlavi is reminding the world that the hostility between Persians and Jews is a modern political construct, not a historical reality. He is bypassing 1979 and connecting back to 2,500 years of history. But let us look at the specifics of what was released today. The reports coming in from the Jerusalem Post and Ynet News confirm that this roadmap includes the dismantling of the proxy network. We are talking about the end of financial and military support for Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen. If this actually happens, the ring of fire that currently surrounds Israel essentially evaporates. Pahlavi's message is clear. The enemy of the Iranian people is not Israel. It is the regime that prioritizes foreign wars over domestic prosperity. However, we need to analyze this with a neutral, critical eye. It is easy to make promises from exile in the United States. The reality on the ground in Tehran is controlled by the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They control the guns, the missiles, and the economy. So is this statement by Pahlavi just wishful thinking, or is the timing significant? We have to look at the context of January 2026. The internal pressure on the Khamenei regime is at a breaking point. Sanctions, currency devaluation, and a restless youth population have created a powder keg. By releasing this roadmap now, Pahlavi is signaling to the Western powers and specifically to the new administration in the White House that there is a viable alternative. He's essentially saying, do not negotiate with the mullahs for a temporary pause in enrichment. Support the opposition and we will give you the permanent solution: total denuclearization. This is where the concept of the Cyrus Accords becomes geopolitically fascinating. We all know about the Abraham Accords, which normalize ties between Israel, UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco. Saudi Arabia has been on the fence. But if Iran, the giant of the Shia world, joins this peace framework, the entire Sunni-Shia divide that has torn the Middle East apart for decades could be bridged by economic integration. Pahlavi is proposing an economic union, not just a security pact. He is talking about Iranian oil flowing freely, technology transfers from Israel to revive Iran's dry agriculture, and a tourism boom that could rival Turkey. But let us pause and look at the nuclear dimension. This is the single biggest bargaining chip. Currently, Iran is a threshold nuclear state. The world is terrified of the day Tehran announces a successful test. Pahlavi is offering to trade that nuclear card for economic reintegration. He is promising to return to a civilian-only program, likely under strict IAEA monitoring. For the United States and Europe, this removes their biggest headache. For Israel, this removes an existential threat. This explains why the reaction in Israeli media today has been so intense. For the first time, they are seeing a partner in Tehran, not a predator. Now, we must address the most critical part of this analysis for our viewers. What does this mean for India? This is the angle that mainstream Western media often overlooks. India has a very unique position in this conflict. We are one of the few major powers that maintains cordial, even warm relations with both Tehran and Tel Aviv. We buy defense technology from Israel, and we are developing the Chabahar Port in Iran to access Central Asia and bypass Pakistan. Under the current situation, India walks a diplomatic tightrope. Every time we get closer to Israel, Iran gets suspicious. Every time we invest in Iran, the US puts pressure on us regarding sanctions. If Reza Pahlavi's vision becomes reality, this tightrope disappears. A secular, friendly Iran that is allied with Israel is the absolute best-case scenario for Indian foreign policy. Think about it. The International North-South Transport Corridor, or INSTC, which India is championing to reach Russia and Europe, runs directly through Iran. Currently, this corridor is plagued by sanctions and geopolitical risk. If Iran normalizes with the West and Israel, sanctions lift. The INSTC becomes a superhighway for Indian goods. Furthermore, let us talk about energy security. Before the sanctions tightened, Iran was one of India's top oil suppliers. Indian refineries are built to process Iranian heavy crude. A regime change that aligns Iran with the Western order would bring Iranian oil back into the market, likely stabilizing global prices, which is a massive boon for the Indian economy. However, there is a catch, and this is the what-if scenario I promised to tell you about. Transitions are rarely peaceful. If the current regime feels threatened by this growing support for Pahlavi, they might lash out. We could see a civil war scenario on India's doorstep. A destabilized Iran is a nightmare for regional security. It would flood Pakistan with refugees, adding to the chaos there, and it would halt all progress on the Chabahar Port. So, while the end goal of a democratic Iran is in India's interest, the process of getting there is fraught with danger. Also, we have to consider the China factor. Currently, China is Iran's biggest economic lifeline through their 25-year strategic partnership. A Pahlavi-led Iran would likely pivot back towards the West and the US. This would be a strategic blow to Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative in West Asia. Would China stand by and let this happen? Or would they double down on supporting the current regime to keep their foothold? This adds a layer of great power competition to an already complex situation. Today's announcement by the exiled prince is a signal flare. It is designed to unify the Iranian opposition and give the international community a clear day-after plan. It challenges the narrative that the only choice is between war and a nuclear-armed theocracy. It puts a third option on the table, a Persian Renaissance. As we watch this unfold, remember that in geopolitics, there are no permanent friends or enemies, only permanent interests. Today, those interests are shifting faster than they have in half a century. The prospect of an Israeli ambassador sitting in Tehran seems like science fiction, but history has a funny way of surprising us. The Berlin Wall fell in a night. The Soviet Union collapsed when everyone thought it was eternal. Could the Islamic Republic be next? I want to know what you think. Do you believe a change in regime in Iran is actually possible in the near future, or is the IRGC too entrenched to be removed? And from an Indian perspective, do you think we should actively support this democratic transition or stick to our policy of non-interference? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is a developing story, and the situation on the ground is fluid. We will keep a close eye on how the White House and South Bloc respond to this new doctrine. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss the follow-up analysis on this massive geopolitical shift. Jai Hind.